Hey guys, welcome back to JDS Outdoors. Jeppo Build 2.0 episode number 6. Today's goal is to get this cleaned up so I can get the correct measurements to start making holes and cuts in this hull and maybe possibly start getting it installed. We'll see. I'm not holding my breath for that, but never know how well things will go until you start doing it. So get the intake and motor mount cleaned up here. So stay tuned. Well, I'm not sure how much of a difference you can tell, but I think I got most of this cleaned up fairly good. Just got to clean up around the edges of that box, make it square, so I can use that as a template to mark on this transom. But a lot of work going into getting all that extra BS I put on there off. There's a couple layers in different spots to try and make it fit in the hull right. And we're going to do this one a little bit nicer. But there's some of the stuff that chiseled off of it. So went through like 4 cutoff blades, and a flat disc so far. Trying to get this thing cleaned up and as straight as possible to make it as easy as possible to fit in the bottom of this boat. Kind of the plan I'm thinking is, so all that shiny area from right there to right there, I'm going to cut out of the bottom of this boat. And obviously the same square in the back right down there. And then get that set in and welded in. And then the engine mount right there will sit up and connect to the ribs down there. So that's the idea. For now, we'll see if it works. Then I got to flip this thing over and weld a spoon over that keel, the center keel on this. And then it'll funnel all the water right into that intake. And so the intake will be a little bit below the bottom of the boat, but what do you do? It's really the only way to make these work good. Unless you have some computer design system and some great engineer that you can design a tunnel that'll work in the back and stuff that's way smarter than me. So anyways, do the last little bit of cleaning and pop out the center of these first couple ribs here, or few ribs. Start getting this bottom marked up to get cut out. So I'll get back with you. Well, now that I got the intake and motor mounts cleaned up, I cut out a couple of the ribs where it's going to sit, and I got it marked to be cut out. So that's the next step. Kind of see the lines. Just like that. Cut out that whole area and nothing should sit into place. And then it can be tacked in, flipped over, and welded in. And then start working on that spoon for the bottom. Well, now there's a big old hole in the bottom of this boat. Time to test fit the intake and see if it fits. Well, it fits. Jeppo 2.0 is taking damn good shape. Heck of a lot faster than the first one. That's because making this setup right here took forever. That's why I cut it out and transplanted it, because it probably took me a week and a half to make all this. So a lot of cutting, fitting, test fitting, putting it in, taking it out. Kind of sucked. But take it out, get it the edges cleaned up here so I can weld on it, get it tacked in and flip her over, And this boat's doing the same thing the other one did. If you see the transom, how it's kind of wobbly and curved in. I think what I'm going to do is put some angle down there. It'll also help fill that gap, but make this a little stronger as well. So, starting to look pretty good. Well, I got it tacked in, so now it's time to flip it over and see what the bottom looks like. And hopefully it's straight and looks good. That way I don't have to cut these little tack marks. I just used a MIG welder real quick to tack it in place in a few spots just to hold it there so it doesn't fall out when I flip this boat over. So that's the next step, flip it over. Well, I got it flipped over, and that really sucked. Sure would be a lot easier if I had a friend that lived close by, because flipping that over by yourself is not easy. But overall, I think this alignment and everything turned out pretty good. So just got the center keel right here has to get a spoon put over it to help direct the flow of the water into the intake. So now it's going to get this welded up down here and should be ready to go, at least for the bottom. You know, the worst part about building on these boats is I've never seen one yet that is symmetrical. And what I mean by that is the distance from one part to the other is identical on each side of the boat. So that makes it pretty hard to build stuff in it, get stuff centered, and take accurate measurements. And kind of what I mean by that, if you look right here, you look at this gap right here between the intake plate, the bottom of the hull, and this center guide on the bottom of the boat. Look at that gap compared to this gap right here. This one on this side is significantly smaller than the one on this side. And I took my measurements in the inside of the boat and I got this plate centered, but I used the intake. So looking at it, it looks like the plate's not centered, and you're right, the plate isn't completely centered, but the intake is centered in the boat, and that's what matters. The plate may be off an 1/8 or 3/16 of an inch on each side, well, from one side compared to the other side, but the intake is centered. So that makes it a little difficult for measuring, but the most important part is centered, and nobody's ever really going to look underneath this boat to see, oh, is the intake plate centered completely? Nobody's really going to care. It's off 1/4 of an inch, which is not that much, but the intake is perfect. So anyways, I'm going to get welding on this a little bit, and I'll throw that update in the next video. I'm not sure if I'll be able to put one up tomorrow or not, but the weekend's coming. I'll be able to get 1 or 2 out this weekend. So if you like what you see, feel free to like, subscribe, dislike, yell at me, comment, do whatever you want. If you're interested to see what this turns into, feel free to follow along. So as always, thanks for watching.